Okay, here we have part 2 of the review of the P-Bandai exclusive real grade Crossbone Gundam X2. Now, as I mentioned, I am a big fan of the X2 because the X2 version is basically, when I think about the Crossbone Gundam, the X2 variant comes into my mind first. Just like how the Blue Destiny Unit 2 with the red shoulders usually comes to my mind when I think about Blue Destiny. So, here we have in the middle is the real grade that I just reviewed on part 1, and I'm very sorry that part 1 was very long, but that just means there was just a lot of stuff to show you guys and talk about. And on the left side, we have the P-Bandai exclusive HGUC version of the X2. And then on the right side, this may not be the best example, but this is the only Crossbone Robot Damashii I have at the moment. So this is the Robot Damashii Crossman Gundam X3. So don't think about the colors. I'm just gonna talk about like the Crossman Gundam, the basics of it. So yeah, I mean, sure, there are some different aspects of the X3, but I'm just gonna mostly talk about the looks. So at the moment, I am very impressed with the real grade version that I just reviewed because I was never a big fan of the real grade line, but this one actually made me consider it more at the moment. And if they actually make more Crossbone variants such as the X3, X0, I would welcome it. If they do make a full armor or full cloth version, I might skip that because I'm not a big fan of having like units with full armor and stuff. They're always like pain in the ass to do so. But either way, very impressed with this. And granted, each version has their own pros and cons. But if I consider everything, this version might be the best to get at the moment. But for now, before I start, I would like to show some size comparison because for those who's not really too familiar with the Crossbone Gundam itself or how the Universal Century timeline works, I see a lot of people who buys like the Victory Gundam or the Crossbone Gundam or the F91 Gundam, and they always say or post on Facebook say, "Why is this so small?" Like blah blah blah. Because in the future, mobile suits become very smaller. I mean, when you think about that, it'd be more efficient. Make it smaller, that would cost less, I think, and then would be easier to deal with. And here we have the HGUC, or not HGUC, the Gundam Origins HG Gundam Local Type, which would be a typical HG size in this day of age, usually. So you can see it's like a head smaller, or maybe two heads smaller, but you can see the head is like about the chest height of the local type, which is like I say would be like a typical Gundam size. So you can see there is some size differences. So with this in mind, when you're building this version of the real grade, a lot of parts will seem a lot smaller. Let's say if you started building with the, let's say, real grade Zaku or Zigok or Arc 78, you may notice that the parts or pieces may seem a bit smaller than the previous UC ones that you built. So just keep that in mind. So there are some parts that could be really easy to lose, which I almost did lose, but I was able to find it by doing some 5-minute cleanup in my room. Okay, so the only cons that I have at the moment with the X2 real grade version is that it has trouble standing on its own. I have the feet planted down. I'm trying to make the weight go forward. Okay, that somehow worked, but still, it's very awkward to balance the kit. Like you can see, it's wobbly even though it's standing on its own. For the HG version, I did not have that much problems, but now I am having a little bit of back issues, but still not as bad as the real grade version. So let's start with these two comparisons. So, okay. So obviously they're around the same size, but I say the proportions on certain areas might be different. I think, like in terms of shoulders, I think the HGC versions is slightly bigger when it comes to the shoulder areas. The legs, I think the HGUC version might be slimmer, or they could be almost the same. But yeah, but when it comes to head size, I believe the HGUC version is also a little bit bigger, but very slightly to the point where it's almost unnoticeable. But I really want to focus on the color separation. Articulation wise, the HGUC version was very good. I was pretty satisfied with the version. But when it comes to color separation, the RG definitely wins because as you can see, the yellow sections you see here, everything is color separated. That is very well, even on the backpack. The one on the HGUC version, obviously those gold I colored them in gold because coloring yellow on was not easy, and also the yellow did not look too good to me at the time. So on the vents, these 4 sections, the 2 sections on the shoulder and then the Vulcan-ish looking areas, those were not even color separated or part separated, to be more specific. They were not part separated, so I had to color them on my own. Same goes for those gold sections on the backpack. And then on the knees, those sections were actually color separated, part separated, but these blue sections right over here were stickers, which I am not too happy about. So they also take these colors a little bit differently. So you can see where the HGUC version has these light blue on it, but on the RG version, they're more of a they're more close to more of a violet color, more purple, and this is more of a blue color to me. So that's actually another different aspect. I think this color is much more accurate. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, at part 1, the heads are different designs. So while the HGUC version went with the more traditional Gundam type look, the real grade went with the more accurate look when it comes to the manga, I believe, where it has, you can only see the lips. There's no face vents, or you don't see the typical Gundam faceplate as well. So yeah. And the main reason why I didn't like about real grades were because of the pre-built interface, but the only things they use here are two things, which is, number one is on the core fighter, number two is the main body frame, but which was a very simple interframe to the point where there weren't much stuff to do with it. So I am very satisfied with that aspect. And obviously every weapon other than the beam sabers are all integrated into the kit that's supposed to be inside, such as the anchor claws on the front skirt. Those part for the HG, you have to basically disassemble and everything and then reattach new parts. So in most of the ways, like other than the balance issues, the real grade wins. So that's that. So now when we talk about the Robot Damashii, it's very hard to compare. So for those who want to who wants to go with the Robot Damashii, I say it's definitely a good choice where it's really hard to break stuff from in the Robot Damashii stuff. So if you want to have something that you can play around with and then not worry about breaking anything, the Robot Damashii would definitely be the case. Because obviously it's a figure, it comes assembled, while the real grade, it has a lot of small parts and it's easy to break. You just saw me break something while reviewing it in part 1. So at least it was something minor, but yeah. Of course, the Robot Damashii takes a little bit different step. Instead of like the mechanical look or like the designer's look, they went with a more manga or anime-esque look to that. So they have their pros and cons. Of course, in terms of functionality, the real grade has more functions to the point where it can even open its mouse on its own. Not like how the real grade or a high grade that you have to swap out heads. So yeah, like I said, they all have their pros and cons. So yeah, at this point, I would say if you want to have a 1-to-144 scale real 1-to-144 scale Crossbone Gundam X2, I would definitely recommend the real grade version that just came out. Of course, if you want something more sturdy or something less breaking, then like Robot Damashii. But still, at this point, even I may not be the best person when it comes to real grades, I would say this would be your best option. And that was pretty much it for the review. And once again, I'm very sorry for that. The part 1 just took a lot of time, but it also meant that I just had a lot of stuff to show you guys. So hopefully it's not a big deal to you guys as well. Anyway, so that was pretty much it. Once again, definitely the best option at this moment. Master Grade, I would like to mention that, but I have not built the Master Grade as well, and I have heard rumors about the issues, but other than that, who knows. Anyway, thank you for watching the review. This was the review of the P-Bandai exclusive Real Grade or RG Crossbone Gundam X2. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. So until then, see you guys next time.